All right, so here we are back again. Let's get ready to learn some more about tarot. Now, the Page of Wands is very hopeful, as all page cards are. You can see that in the landscape of this page card, there's the 3 pyramids in the background, and those are often thought to represent body, mind, and spirit, and that's where these 3 things come together in this page card. Now, page cards are about potential, and that's very much the case in this Page of Wands. This is about creative potential. So many of the Wands cards, and so much that is the Wands, that embodies the Wands idea, is creative, because it's so much about thinking, right? So it's about our passions, about the things that we long to do. And this page is about beginning to think of that, this idea germinating. And it's like, and what an idea, you know, it's this something that's really important to you. It can be something that is a lifelong thing, or it can be something that's more in the moment. It's this seed of an idea that is just beginning to germinate. So the page card is much about potential. It's about inspiration and the ways in which you begin to foment that idea and bring some shape to it. You know, it's a little bit more than just, what about this? It's more like, what about this? And how would I make this happen? And what would this mean to me? You know, it's all of these things coming together to sort of bless this idea. So it's the potential of very good things, but it's just that. It's a potential. There has to be follow through. And so then we get, you know, perfectly enough. So then we get, of course, the next step in that, and that is the Knight of Wands. Now, I want to say a couple things about the Knight of Wands, because it very much relates to the Page of Wands. It's a continuation of an idea or an inspiration, a thought that you might have, a plan. It's running with this idea, right? It's taking actual steps to make this inspiration, this idea, this potential have some life. And as you can see, it's very positive. I mean, this knight is like raring to go. His horse, if you'll notice, it's the same orangey color that you find in the Strength card. So it has that strength to it. It has that fire to it. It has the built-in momentum if you will push it forward. And in this Knight card, that's what you're doing. So the other thing I want to mention about this Knight card, and this is true of all of the Knight cards in the Minor Arcana, I will often get these cards related to someone asking about relationships or the potential of relationships. And for me, and this is how I read tarot, but it may be different for you. You kind of set after a while what your expectations are, and your guides who are helping you with this, and your clients' guides, will like fall into that. You know, you kind of become a known commodity, and so they'll work with that. Now for me, with all of these court cards, with the face cards, as I think of them, they often, and for me more often than not, speak about a person, the client themselves, the potential, you know, somebody coming into my clients' lives. So they're like the embodiment of an actual person. And then there's a lot of things attached to that. So with the Knight cards, I get these often, as I said, with people asking about relationships and romances. And as you'll see as we go through each Knight card, and I'll try to mention this every time I talk about a Knight card, you can see the different aspect to them. So, you know, people, when they ask about relationships, There, we have a lot of relationships in our lives, but so many people are like looking for their real soulmate. And this card is a very good indication that that person is there or is coming. Now, with some of these cards, the Eight of Wands that we mentioned, and in particular, when it comes to romances with this Knight of Wands, it's something that's coming fairly quickly. That doesn't necessarily mean tomorrow, although it might. But, often I'll feel like within 6 months with this card. And that's kind of generally how things are. I'll feel like, well, it feels pretty soon. But with this Knight of Wands, there's this feeling of, like a good person writing in, just a very positive feeling about the goodness of the person coming in, the swiftness of this person coming in, and the potential of the relationship, because it is a very good potential when you see the Knight of Wands. And in general, this Knight of Wands just speaks to good things. As you can see, this Knight of Wands is like daring and self-assured and self-motivated, and that's important. And all of these things add up to just being very positive, and the potential of which it speaks is just huge. And that's a great thing. That's a great thing to know. Well, we're almost done with these Wands cards. All we've got left is the Queen and the King. And so let's talk about them. Let's talk about the Queen. As you can see, this Queen is very poised, very self-assured. This Queen of Wands sits on a throne that has these lions on it. And the lions here symbolize that fiery, passionate strength, that strong energy that the wands are all about. She's also got the sunflower next to her, and the sunflower is about this radiant, pure energy, this warm, loving energy that she possesses. She's got the cat at her feet, and any of you who have cats know that the cats symbolize both this emotional connectivity, but also independence. And she's got that two-sided nature as well. So while the Queen possesses all of these attributes, she is, because of them, naturally self-assured. And when you are naturally self-assured, as this Queen of Wands is, it's easy for you to lift other people up. And that is what she's also about. That's perhaps what she's mainly about. She is a cheerleader. She is the place that people go for like a soft landing. When the world has got you down, this Queen of Wands is there to support you. She's very nurturing. And at the same time, she has this creative spark, this inner wisdom, and this passion that she is able to share. She's very nurturing, and that's, a lot of these queen figures have that nurturing side to them. She is also, has all of the Wands cards have this element of physical passion, of sexuality, and she is about that as well. This self-assured sexuality, being comfortable in her own skin when it comes to love and sexuality. And when you get this kind of card in a reading, for people who are asking about relationships and these kinds of things, this can be for female or male clients. It's about being comfortable with expressing love physically in whatever sense that means to you, means to your client. It is very much about being comfortable, coming to be comfortable, sometimes after a very long process, in your own skin and with who you are. Now, because the Queen is that self-possessed and self-assured person, she's able to also offer that to other people to help them find that in themselves. Now, the King of Wands is very much like the Queen of Wands. And while the Queen is self-assured and powerful and creative in her own right, she also is this very nurturing figure. The King is just a variation on that because he has that same self-possession, that same determination, that same level of success, but he is also a leader. And that's the feeling that you get with this King of Wands. He's often very intellectual or extremely creative, but he is a leader in whatever field. He has risen to the top of his field. He is often a risk taker. He is always self-motivated, and he is always very competent, sometimes competitive. Now, one thing that I want to mention about all of these cards, and not just the court cards, this can be any card in the tarot deck, so I'll try and mention it again. But all of these cards have what you might call, and some people do call, a shadow aspect. Now, when a card is reversed, if you choose to read reverse cards, and we'll talk about them more in depth if people would like that. But reverse cards are in a lot of ways the opposite, or a near opposite, or what an opposite, the closest thing an opposite could be to that card. But the shadow aspect, think of it as sort of the card in overdrive or in overkill or just going overboard. Okay. So for instance, with the King, the overboard, when we talk about being very confident, the shadow aspect or the going overboard aspect would be being arrogant. Okay. And when you read, sometimes, but when you read, we'll make this an assurity. You're reading with your intuition. And if you get this King of Wands, you may feel the confidence and the ways in which this boss is, or this, company CEO or whoever he is, you may feel the ways in which he is a leader and very competent and intelligent and those kinds of things. But you may also feel, and this is where your intuition comes in, that he is a bit harsh and he's a bit arrogant and you can't tell him anything, and he knows all that kind of stuff. So that's the shadow aspect of a card. With the Queen of Wands, you have this wonderful nurturer, and the shadow aspect of it may be that she's like too involved in her kids' lives, a little bit overbearing with that nurturing. Now, as you read and as you begin to be comfortable with your own reading style, and as you begin to feel your intuition kicking in, becoming clairvoyant, becoming a cardvoyant, as we say, you'll be able to feel what the aspect is of this card. Is it this really sort of straightforward, clear part of the King of Wands, or is it more of the shadow aspect? What is the one part of what the King of Wands says? What is the one part that relates to your client? Now, as you begin to be more comfortable with your own reading style, and you begin to figure out like what the cards mean to you, how you want to read, and what certain things mean to you, symbols and so forth, your intuition will kick in more and more. The more you read, the more this happens. The more clear things become to you as you're reading the cards. And so you'll be able to figure out not only if this is like kind of a straightforward reading of the card or if it's more about a shadow aspect, but you'll also be able to find that whether or not this is all about like this big picture of this card, like is this King of Wands is just a leader, or is it about one specific thing? Is it about his the intellect or the competence, or is about the arrogance and the overbearing, you know, you honestly, that will come through to you. You just have to get a little bit used to it, you know, do some readings, but also just open your mind, be open to it, you know, meditate beforehand, ask your guides for help, thank them when you receive the help, and just sort of open yourself up to it, open yourself up to the experience. You can, and I'll say this again and again, but you can definitely do this. I truly believe anybody can do this. Anybody can use the cards. Even if you're a little bit, if you haven't quite figured out how to open up in that way, the cards are there as a tool to guide you even when you're unable to sort of sense things yourself. That's what they're for, really. When you can't quite do it, you're completely on your own. That's what they're there for. But as you use them more and more, they just open up this whole world of insight that is just incredible. And sometimes the card itself is just the tiniest bit of understanding, and then you just go from there. So I hope this helped you understand the Wands cards. We've got 3 more suits to do, and we will move forward with those very quickly. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe if you'd like to learn more. We'll be doing lots of readings and other things on this channel. So hopefully if you have an interest in tarot, you'll stay tuned. Thanks. Bye-bye.